Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. Today is the second episode of my Merry Monday series where I make some holiday cards leading up to Christmas. Today's card is a very simple one, but I really love how it turned out. It uses all my favorite Christmas things, some wintry scenes, some craft cardstock, some gold. I really like this one. Now for this card, I started out with my background because I knew it would take a little bit to dry. I cut down a craft piece of cardstock to an A2 size, but I will cut it down later even more. But for now it's A2 sized, and I'm using a stencil by DooBaDoo, which is a lovely name to say. And I will be using some texture paste by Ranger on there. This is the white opaque matte one, and I love that for wintry scenes. You can easily make snowbanks out of this, or even some snowflakes if you have a snowflake stencil. But I really like this one. Usually it's flowers that I use the stencil for, but I figured it would look a little bit like frost on a window. So that's what I'm going for here. And I'm just applying that with a palette knife. This is a really lovely layered scene die set by Love to Craft. This is available at Action. So I only paid a couple euros for this and it's so lovely. These are amazing dies. So this is the second layer actually. And I cut that twice out of thick white cardstock, and I'm layering that together with Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. I cut the first layer only once, that's the layer with the stars, and I did punch out all of those stars, but I will do some inlay die cutting for that, and that's why I'm putting some painter's tape on the back of it. You could put a piece of cardstock on the back of it, but I figured this would be good enough. Now in the windows in the little church, I am putting some glue, and I also die cut that from gold glitter cardstock, and I did the same for the stars. I am adding more glue to the star openings, even though there's sticky painter's tape behind it, because the tape isn't that sticky and I really just want it as a base to put my stars in. You could absolutely adhere the stars directly onto your background panel, but because I have that texture paste stenciling on my background panel, I didn't think that was such a good idea. Now for the third layer, I again cut 2 layers of thick white cardstock, and I layered those together and onto my other layers with Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. So I'm keeping this scene really simple, and that's one of the lovely things I like to do on Christmas cards. Using a lot of white and a craft card base. I really like that look, not sure why, but it's been one of my favorites for a while now. Now I did want to add a little critter, and the Mama Elephant little agenda critters are perfect for these scenes. Yes, there are more of these little scene dies available at Action, so if I were you, I would try to go over there right now and see if they are still available. I stamped this small image from the Little Fox Agenda stamp set by Mama Elephant in Versafine Vintage Sepia ink for a soft brown outline image. I didn't want the harsh black outline that I usually have on that very white winter scene. I'm keeping the coloring very simple. I'm using my Faber Castell Polychromos colored pencils for this. It's really easy to color this. I didn't do too much shading on this or anything. Just the bare minimum. And the paper I am using for this is the Fabriano Accademia 200 GSM paper. This is great for colored pencils. Now I did tell you I would trim down my background panel a little more, and I did with a die by My Favorite Things. These are the wonky stitched rectangle dies, and I think they give a really lovely edge to your panels. And I'm backing that with a lot of foam tape. Usually I do a couple layers of thick white cardstock, but I figured that Ornament was already quite heavy because it's so many layers, so I just stuck with foam tape this time. And I'm just centering that onto a white top folding card base. I can then press that in place and layer on my scene. Now I did trim off an edge on that. I like the look of it hanging over the edge a little bit, being trimmed off, not totally round. I don't know, that's just what I like. You can absolutely just leave it whole. I just use my paper trimmer for this. I did put a lot of glue on the back because, again, I am working on top of that texture paste, and that will help it adhere to everything, even the bits that are a little bit lower than the texture paste. Now this die set does come with that funky looking little shape. I didn't know what it was for at first because none of the other scene dies have this. But I figured it was for an ornament, to make a Christmas ornament out of this. And that's what I did. So I die cut it 5 times out of thick white cardstock. That's the same amount of layers I have on my ornament itself. And then I die cut it once more out of gold glitter cardstock. And to layer little pieces like this, I always like to use my jewel picker, and that helps me grab onto it. It's a lot easier to do than just fiddling around with it. And to finish this off, I just took a black pen and draw in a string. And this really makes it look like a Christmas ornament. I fussy cut out that little fox, and I put some foam squares on the back to add a little bit more dimension to it, and then I can adhere that in place as well. For my matching envelope, I am again keeping things simple. I usually keep things super simple for my matching envelope, but I do like to make them. I took some more craft cardstock. It's not exactly the same, but the cardstock I used for my background panel was 300 GSM, which is very heavy for an envelope. So I just took a craft cardstock that I have that's slightly lighter weight, and it is a little bit warmer in tone as well. And I folded an envelope out of that with my We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board, and I'm just reinforcing those score lines, and then I can adhere that together with my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Once that's done, I can add a little bit of stenciling to my envelope as well. I'm using that same stencil I used before, but this time I am just using the white pigment ink by Hero Arts. I'm using a very light hand to apply this with a blending brush. You really should be careful with the white pigment ink. These are usually super pigmented and they're very wet. So you don't want too much on your brush and you don't want to go in too heavy-handed. And that finishes up my project. I really like this look. It's such a classic Christmas look, but a little bit modern as well because you don't have too many colors going on. And I hope you like it too. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. You can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. I upload something almost every day. On Mondays, I have this series up until Christmas at least. And on Fridays, I have a Casual Friday series where I post a clean and simple card. So that's fun as well. I hope you stay tuned for that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time.